Hello everyone and welcome back to Cruel and Unusual Storytime. I am your host Simon Dexter. Today we are resuming Facing Her Fears. That last episode was rather adult. I don't expect it to get better, because this is still really fucking long. So, let's just resume. Not much else I can say. The way back down the mountain seemed far longer than their ascent. Silence, complete stillness, aside from the crunch of their hoof and footsteps. Spike trailed behind, occasionally glancing up with a sullen look, only to be ignored again. Fluttershy wouldn't even turn around. Fluttershy, he tried. Fluttershy, he tried. Pardon me. Fluttershy said nothing. Don't we have to talk about this? We can't just ignore it. Fluttershy said nothing. I just did pedophilia and bestiality at the same moment. I ain't going back to jail, Spike. Something akin to what I assume she'd be thinking, but it's probably not correct. I don't know, would dragon pony things consider you can? We're not going to think too hard about that. We're just going to move along. The little dragon sighed, his brows creasing in a dark frown. He hadn't asked for this. He told Fluttershy they should leave, and it wasn't as if he was in full control for the part that came after. She couldn't blame him for that any more than he could blame her. But what are we going to tell the others? Bitch, we ain't going to say shit, said Fluttershy. Fluttershy said nothing. This whole thing was a mistake. The ponies who wrote that book clearly had no idea what they were talking about. Spike just wanted to get back to town, curl up in his bed, fall asleep and pretend that it never happened. But not forget it. That would be impossible. Fluttershy's sultry gaze, her innocence falling away, and being replaced by lust. Falling away... Oh, I already read that. Would be burned into his mind forever. He didn't particularly want to forget it either, not that Spike would even ever admit it. Even now his attention kept straying to her swaying flanks as they trudged on, and his claw smacked the side of his face. No, it's a bait, Spike. Could be thinking things like that. How about Fluttershy, of all ponies? What about Rarity? What of her? Make up your damn mind, you dragon bastard. Oh. He was going off on that tangent anyway. What about her? He answered. What bit of interest has Rarity ever shown you in the slightest? Do you really think she'd ever think of you that way, the way Fluttershy did back there? She wasn't so innocent then, was she? Nope. It's a bait, Spike. I actually keep saying it. I just keep doing it in the Cartman voice because I like to. Or is it John? I don't know who I'm mimicking there. Someone. But the way she'd bitten her lip, and on went flipping between ignoble imaginings and internal reprimands, surrounded by conflicting thoughts. Spike made the rest of the hike in a confused daze, only snapping back to reality on the outskirts of Ponyville, at Fluttershy's cottage. She didn't look back as she separated from him, didn't say goodbye as she shut the gate behind her, and made her way up the path to her home. Fluttershy called back in a last-ditch effort. It got her to stop, at least. Oh, Fluttershy! Called Spike in a last-ditch effort. I don't recall if I actually said that or not. It got her to stop, at least. That was something, even if she didn't turn around. So we're not going to talk about it? He asked. Just pretend it never happened? Fluttershy said nothing. What do we tell the others? There was a long pause. Nothing, said Fluttershy. Yeah, I wouldn't say anything either. Don't know why Spike's so adamant about saying something. The minute the door shut behind her, Fluttershy's iron exterior melted. Why did Spike have to keep talking? Couldn't he see it was affecting her? How each time he spoke she froze slightly, her legs shaking. Her legs were stiff as she shuffled into the bathroom, and not just from physical exertion. It took a gargantuan of effort merely to climb into the bathtub. The tap set as cold as it could go, Fluttershy flipped the shower on, gasping as the icy water rolled over her. It was good, it was cleansing, and yet it wasn't enough to quell the embers that still burned in her. Oh, she's still hot. Okay, I kind of figured that was the deal, but one never knows in these things. With a groan, she snapped off the water. Shivering in the cool air, she began to towel herself off. Running the soft cloth over her body, she imagined claws in its place, playing through her mane and against her skin. The dragon's scales glinting purple in the candlelight also we're not going to talk about that. Well, it's just, they're covered in hair. Wouldn't she need to be, like, shaved to actually, touch her skin? Just a thought. Her hoof found its way between her legs once more. She sank to the bathroom floor, lying against the freezing tiles, but it didn't matter. Fluttershy's body was on fire, and they couldn't chill her. And now Spike was beside her, caressing her, his tongue flitting against her skin. Again. She bit down on her forehoof hard enough to cause a little sharp pinpricks of pain, but that only made everything better, shuddering at the harsh contrast. The dragon aligned himself with her entrance, giving a bestial snarl and thrusting forwards, his pointed member filling her completely. Ow. That doesn't sound pleasant. I don't know what you want me to say. Fluttershy quivered as she came, bucking against her hoof, lost in lurid fantasy as the stars faded in the room came back into focus. She finally admitted to herself that she had a problem. The good news was that she wasn't afraid of dragons anymore. The bad news was that she couldn't stop thinking about them. Kind of where I expected this to go, so... At least it's not a full-size one. She'd be torn asunder. Spike, my dear, you made it. Rarity was as radiant as ever as she greeted him. Hugging him tightly, he could smell her perfume and the faint lingering scent of something else. I don't want to know what that is. Please don't tell me. Wouldn't miss it, he answered brightly. She looked incredible tonight, her mane made up just how he liked it, and wearing his favorite dress of hers. Come in, come in. Can't have you standing out there all night. Rarity grabbed his claw and tugged him inside, closing the door quickly behind him. Have a seat. Spike levered himself into the chair she'd set out for him. So what's the occasion? Her invitation had been confusing at best, simply requesting his company for no apparent reason. Rarity had never done anything like that before, so there had to be something to celebrate. Or she needed a guinea pig. You poor bastard. I hear you helped a certain Pegasus beat her fear of dragons. Oh, in the best possible way. Oh, right. Spike had hoped no one would find out about that, at least of all Rarity. That's no small feat, given your status, shall we say. Rarity flashed him a beautiful smile, helping... Oh, pardon me. Didn't see the quotes, kinda got lost. And helping out such a dear friend deserves a reward, don't you think? Oh, my brave little Spikey Wikey. This is gonna go down a path I didn't want to go down, isn't it? It's too late for me. It's far too late. She remembered so close to him now, far too close for friends. Hoof pressed against his chest, slowly sliding down. Oh, to be so generous. No. Like I said, I've at least seen the pilot, and I know generosity is her thing. That is not funny. I say as I laugh. Spike tried not to let his excitement show. You're not wearing clothes. Good luck with that. She couldn't mean what he thought she meant, surely, but he could feel himself stiffening, betraying his desire. Please don't see it. He made to cover himself. Ooh, we're using big words that Simon doesn't know. That's impressive. Surreptitiously. I think I did it. But Rarity's hoof reached him first, bumping lightly against his length and sending a jolt of exhilaration through him. Ow. Hoof on Penis do not work good. Call out a hunch. Or experience. I'll let your imagination fly through. I don't care. Oh, my little dragon is all grown up. Rarity stuck her tongue out playfully, her hoof beginning to toy with him. But how work? Show diagram. Don't show diagram. Changed mine. No, don't want diagram. Her motions were over practice, and Spike could only hiss in pleasure, leaning his head back in enjoyment. So, Spikey Wikey, is this reward good enough? Please stop calling him that. I know you do, but I can't. It's gross in this context. In my opinion, that is. Spike barely heard her, his mind focused understandably elsewhere. Huh? Is this good, Spike? No, you're scraping what is essentially horse snail down his penis. This is not okay. I mean, could just be a horse and put that long face of yours to good use. That was dreadful. I can't believe I just said that. I'm leaving it in, just to show what a shithead I truly am. Feel free to unsubscribe at any point. The voice wasn't Rarity's anymore. He glanced down to find the hoof that was bringing him ever closer to the edge was now a pale yellow. Oh, dream sequence. The Pegasus beneath him looked up with a nervous smile, cyan eyes, almost hidden behind her pink mane. He shuddered as sticky rope splattered across the bathroom floor, his claw frantically running along the length. Okay, that was unexpected, he said. Kind of. He dropped into an exhausted heap, breathing heavily and enjoying the relaxation that followed his release, except he couldn't entirely calm down, not with this most recent development. That was a fantasy played out countless times before. The setting and the reason for Rarity's generosity would vary, but the gist was always the same. She invited him in, moved closer, and told him she was going to reward him for his hard work, and the rest took care of itself. But he never envisaged a different mare before. He never lost control so quickly either. He didn't even have time to grab the tissues this time. An evening of firsts, it seemed. Is this good, Spike? The member sent shivers down his spine. Good ones, the kind that tingled. What had gotten into him? First the mountain, and now this. Fluttershy, Fluttershy, the most innocent and caring pony he'd ever met, and here he was fascinating about her depravities and loving every minute of it. If she knew what he'd been imagining, he'd be in trouble. He had to stop, and he had to talk to Fluttershy about it. They couldn't just keep on like this, pretending nothing had happened. Spike had to get her to tell him it was nothing, that nothing would ever come of it. It was the only way he'd get her out of his head and get back to the mare he loved. Even though I don't necessarily think he loves her either. I think it's more of a puppy love thing. He has a raging hard-on for her, is what I'm trying to say. Because that was definitely Rarity. Yep, no way anyone else was currently all he could think about spiraling round in his thoughts. Nope. Is this good, Spike? Am I sexy for you, baby? I'm enjoying this. This is uncomfortable. I should stop. Spike strode up to the path to Fluttershy's cottage. He was bold. He was determined. He was seriously questioning everything that had brought him to this point. No matter how many times he replayed the events on the mountainside, they always seemed too surreal, too impossible. But it happened. He was sure of it. The lingering guilt was proof enough, pardon me. And it wasn't just guilt that burned inside him. The sun was just disappearing behind the horizon, dark red spanning across the sky, fading to black, and interspersed with purple and yellow streaks. It was beautiful, but Spike didn't even see it. His mind was entirely consumed with the day's events, and whatever he was going to say to Fluttershy, he didn't even have a concrete plan, no real idea as to what he was going to tell her, but he had to say something, didn't he? Whatever happened after leaving it hanging in the air was going to taint every interaction they shared. Their friends would notice, and soon enough it would just all come out. Best to nip it in the butt now, before everything got even worse. His claw was too heavy as he knocked on the wood, the sharp reverberations too loud. A terrible thought hit him. What if she didn't answer? What would he do then? And honestly, he had no reply to that. He never needed one, as it turned out, because as that moment the door opened a crack, Fluttershy peeking up behind it. Spike. Hey, Fluttershy, can we talk? She gave him a long stare before nodding, opening the door the rest of the way to let him in. Immediately Spike was struck by the difference. The cottage was now immaculate, the wood practically sparkling clean. She had a lot of pent-up energy, my friend. A lot of it, as it would seem. He didn't know how wood could sparkle, but it certainly seemed to. Fucking magic, man. Questioning this shit. Well, you did all this already? Fluttershy looked away. Oh, I was just trying to distract myself. Distract myself? Realization dawned. She'd been trying to forget everything. Actually, I don't want to get into that. I've made enough disturbing and disgusting innuendos in this episode. I think I'm good. Her eyes widened, seeing his crushed expression. Oh no, it's not like that. I couldn't stop thinking about... Fluttershy's voice dropped to a whisper. Dragons. Spike's shoulders slumped. After all that, he hadn't even helped her. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not scared of them anymore. Wait, you're not? I'm not. I want that 3 ponies worth of a dick in this one pony. That is what I want in this life, Spike. That's all I've ever wanted. I'm sorry. I'm not. Fluttershy finally stopped avoiding his gaze and smiled at him. It was the first time he'd seen her smile since they'd met at the cafe. Thanks to you. Then what's with all this? Spike gestured around the spotless room. Oh, well, it's... Fluttershy floundered, searching for the least incriminating words. Complicated. The little dragon sighed. Don't worry, Fluttershy, we'll just forget it. Neither of us were really in control. Let's just pretend it never happened. He turned to leave, a strange disappointment within him. He'd come here expecting this exact scenario, so why did he hate it so much? Because you're horny as shit, my friend, and that's not just because you're a dragon. Some fucking high-quality entertainment you've wasted about 16 minutes on, folks. I totally lost my spot. He turned to leave. Oh, nope, I already passed this. I already read it. Spike, wait! A little twinge of excitement hit him as she called out, but he refused to let it take hold. Whatever she had to say would probably just crush it again anyway. Yeah? There was a pause, and Fluttershy hung her head. Don't go, she whispered. Huh? I said don't go. There's more conviction in her words this time, even though she still couldn't bring herself to look at him. I need you to stay. Forever. But you're trying so hard to forget what happened. Fluttershy glanced around the cottage. Maybe, but I'm not very good at it, and, well, Fluttershy sidled a little closer. I don't think I want to. Oh my. Closer again, and now her smile took on a far more seductive nature, her eyes roaming over his infantile body. I'm just going to go ahead and say that again. Fluttershy, wait! Fluttershy stopped dead in her tracks, her sultry look disintegrating instantly. She'd done it again, let lust get the better of her, and this time she couldn't simply dismiss her actions as a mistake. Her mouth opened, some excuse, some rationality trying to form, but all she could manage was a kind of broken whimper before everything she had been avoiding crashed over her at once. She sunk to the cottage floor, tears streaming down her face as she buried her face in her hooves, muffling her already quiet sobs. Fluttershy? Great Spike. What good is that supposed to do? Guess you'll have to give her a fierce sticking, boy. This was not a situation he had prepared for, not in all the scenarios he'd considered before coming here. Not once did he imagine Fluttershy breaking down crying, or that it would be his fault. Just go, came the response. I'm sorry, Spike, I never should have. Spike would never learn what Fluttershy shouldn't have done, because at that point she returned to her hooves, muting her trembling voice again, at a loss for any words that could offer even the slightest bit of comfort. Spike sank down next to her, wrapping an arm around Fluttershy's shoulders. Perhaps that was all she needed, because she didn't shy away, didn't tell him to leave this time. Fluttershy? He tried again. She didn't answer. I'm not going anywhere. Fluttershy looked up at him, wet streaks down her face. Not even after? Especially not after, he replied, taking a claw and running it gently across first one cheek, then the other. Okay, I could not read that right for whatever reason. Wiping her tears away. It was only after he'd done that Spike realized his gesture could be construed as more than that of a friend's, but he didn't really care. Fluttershy needed him now more than ever, and he couldn't bear seeing her like that. How could he ever have called himself her friend again if he abandoned her now? And so perhaps it wasn't entirely surprising when Fluttershy kissed him. It was only brief, little more than the barest brush of her lips against his, but it was still enough to turn both their cheeks red. I'm kind of short on time this week, so I'm just going to cut it there, especially seeing as This isn't going to give me any other natural break-off point. We all know where this is going. So, get your lotion ready for next time. I will see you all next week to enjoy this scene. I love my job, I swear I do. It's just sometimes you read some shit that you just can't unread. You all have a wonderful day. I will see you all tomorrow.